All right. We are back for a midweek segment. We're excited about this. I believe, is this number 3 on the Big Orange podcast for Ramon Foster, VFL legend, NFL great. Can I say this? One of the best radio hosts in Nashville, killing it over there on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Ramon Foster is with us. What's up, man?
Man, what an intro, man. Make sure you do that in my Hall of Fame induction. Nah. I'm having a good time doing all the things I'm a part of right now, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. Is this number 3 or 4? I feel like we've done it 3 or 4 times now.
Several times. I can't remember.
I think even at 3, it makes you our highest returning guest, though, because I think we had Josh Mancuso on twice, Barrett Salee maybe twice, and so even if it is 3, you're our most returning guest. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Obviously, here to talk Vols, and it's Alabama week. I mean, this is the week. This is what everybody looking at. Like, can Josh Heupel really do it? Beat Saban twice. But let's start here. 5-1. Somehow Tennessee looks like a hard-nosed defensive running team. What do you think of the season so far, Ramon?
Man, we were talking, all of us, me, you, and Zach were talking on before we came on the air, and we were just saying, we're 5-1. We enjoy what that is. We're not hovering right at 500. The team is still winning. We've seen progress and everything that comes a part of it, but it still feels icky almost, because I think we expected the offense to be the same continuation of what we saw last year and a little bit of the year before too, to where that just pop of offense became a thing that everybody loved. The one thing that Vols fans were looking for was excitement, promise, and scoring, right? That's what we were looking for, and we got that last year. And we're still getting some remnants of it this year. We're still having the ability to kind of say, like, yeah, this team is moving in the right direction. Unlike some other coaching staffs around the SEC that are new, South Carolina can't really say that right now. You almost look at Arkansas, who had a hot coach at the time, can't say that right now. There's a few teams around South Carolina, that can't say that. Even Florida, even though they beat us. And this is what happens when you become a coach. You adjust. You work with what your personnel tells you're supposed to do. And right now, the personnel has probably the best running back group in the NFL and all of college sports. They have a 3-headed monster at the running back position. And why would you not use those guys, especially if Joe Milton can't connect the way Hendon Hooker did last year? It's almost coaching malpractice. It's idiotic to not hand the ball off to those guys and let them go work and cook, especially with Cooper Mays being back up the middle, which seems to really stabilize what this offense is capable of doing up front. It gave them a sense of just putting everybody in their spots. I enjoy watching them. And I'll even say this too, even though they're a ground and pound team, it's still fun to watch because you never know who's going to be the guy to pop a big run.
I mean, it seems like some of those deep shots have been there at times, like they just haven't hit them. But for you as a former offensive lineman, how was that? How did you feel about when you were in college, like when somebody would break off one of those big runs like that? Did that give you more joy than some of those deep shots? Because, I mean, you play a direct part in pass protection too, but it just seems like running the ball, kind of out there grinding.
It does. It does something for you because you are a direct reflection of why that play is successful. And then there's also in those moments where you reel off a big run offensively at the running back position, you watch it demoralize the defensive line. That's why coaches harp on win the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball, because if you defeat the other team's bigs, everybody else fall behind them. If you're pushing them back into the laps of the running back, it kills them. It absolutely stops momentum. It'll have the opposing defense pointing fingers, fussing at one another when you have those big runs. So, yeah, it is a little bit more satisfying. It does give you more of a boost when it comes down to how you view yourself. Imagine this, of course, and we speak about the game, but you moving a 300-pound man around, a 280-pound man around and controlling them and watching them drop their head. Absolutely nothing better, man. It's very satisfying, Zach.
On the flip side of that, real quick, just while we stay in the line of scrimmage, what is it like going up against a guy like James Pierce? Like when you see him as an offensive lineman, what's going through your head? Because he was, in that South Carolina game, he was demoralizing their right tackle and even against A&M.
The one guy I can remember being that dude in college was probably Carlos Dunlap. Tyson Jackson was a part of one of those groups right there. Glenn Dorsey, remember him? When you see those types of dudes, Kyle Williams at LSU, I'm going all the way back of this type. Geno Atkins also at Georgia. What it makes you do is buckle down. It has you in a point to where your anxiety goes up through the roof. You want to make sure the protection is right, and you hope that you're not in a long down and distance situation. That's what you hope, and that's what this team has been doing. I watched James Pierce absolutely go inside, go outside, run around the edge, beat guys on the right side and left side of that Texas A&M offensive line. And all you can say is, man, to that point a second ago, we got to do better in down and distances. We can't have 3rd and 6 to 10 anymore because this dude is teeing off. It's special watching him. And I'll say this too. I know a bunch of people have kind of been a lot of people have kind of contributed to his success in the idea that he knew he was this talented and didn't really want to wait a whole lot last year. And they just kept telling him, just be patient. You're going to get your turn. And I'm actually glad he stayed at Tennessee and we get an opportunity to see that growth, but not just for him, but for the recruits coming behind him that have that same skill set of getting after the quarterback as an outside rusher. Sometimes paying your dues and watching it pay off is the sweetest thing you can ever ask for from a young college player the way he is. What it looked like as an offensive lineman, though, Zach, hope the ball is out because that's all the opposing offensive linemen are doing is hoping that the doggone ball is out.
So I do my game day show with Jonathan Crompton, halftime post game, and the great debate on that show has been where does the real problem lie with how kind of off this offense seems a lot of the time. And of course that's been there's a lot of people in the comments that say it's Joe Milton. Now Crompton has been very much of the opinion of it's really starting with these wide receivers and that Milton hasn't been that bad. And I'll say I've gone back, this has happened multiple times this season. I watched the game and I go, man, Milton stunk in that game. And then I go back and watch the tape and I'm like, I'm not sure if it was as bad as I thought. So where do you sit on that, Ramon?
Here is 2 things on that one. One, I'll say this. I think Joe helps this offense more if he does run and protect himself. I think that makes defenses kind of sit a little bit more when it comes down to the wide receivers. I'll say that. If he did just a little bit more of that and be careful not to get hurt, you settled your wide receivers probably a little bit more because you know the play is going to continue on. I've talked to other wide receivers that's either played in college or in the NFL, other quarterbacks, and they'll say this. When it comes down to what Joe is doing through the air with the wide receivers, they have to help him too. Think about some of the catches that Jalen had last year and Cedric when he was available. Think about those moments where those guys were catching behind him. What do we say most times when it comes down to wide receivers? If your hand touched the ball, you're supposed to catch it. The ball have been in the vicinity more times than not when it comes down to their abilities to get the ball, right? And no 50-50 ball chances. Or I've seen in the last game against A&M, it looked like wide receivers were slowing down. And I'm thinking to myself, why ever would you slow down with a guy like Joe Milton throwing the ball to you? You know it's probably going to be more than it is less. It's almost as if they don't know if they're going to get the ball or not. They have to help themselves. If the ball's just a little bit behind you and we tell these guys you're world-class athletes, make those plays if it's within your vicinity. There is a lot of, blame that has to go to the wide receiver. And that's why I almost have to ask that question too. And we've been talking about it. Well, who's the guy that's going to actually step up? Jalen Hyatt was the guy that stepped up last year. Nobody in this 2023 group, other than the idea that Squirrel is a must get the ball in his hands type of guy, has done anything else. Like Chaz Nimrod is emerging, it seems like, as one of those guys, but he's getting that opportunity because Brew went down. Like, we're looking at Deontay Thornton to get healthy. But who is the wide receiver that you're going to say, we got to go to him? That's on them.
Yeah, that part has been kind of surprising. And it almost feels like, and I don't know if you'd agree with this or not, but Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman, those guys, it seemed like they made it look so easy in 2021 and 2022 at times. But you didn't really see the work that Jalen Hyatt put in. I remember they talked about after that Alabama game, he's back in the facility, staying late, coming in early, like he wasn't satisfied. Do you think there was like this misconception that you just show up in Josh Heupel's offense and you're going to be a star no matter what? Because that was like the narrative around the country that was kind of going around with when Hyatt was in line for the draft and all that. Is that You think that's seeped into their psyche any at all?
They're also young for the most part, or new, like a guy like Deontay. I do think that plays a part in it. And this is what Jalen and Cedric also said too. They worked their butts off all summer long. What is the story? 15,000 balls that he caught over the course of the summer. Yeah, I do think that plays a part in it. Success, sometimes make you relax a little bit. It makes you think stuff is automatic. And that's where you have to have those veteran guys kind of tell you, look, just because you wear orange and white or you got 100,000 plus people come see you doesn't mean people are going to lay down for you. It actually makes the target on your back a little bit bigger. Or just because this offense was turning out 500 yards a game last year, 600, 700 yards and stuff like that. That's not an automatic thing. Joe being a new starter again, this group of wide receivers coming behind Jalen and Cedric and those guys, right? Like Fant, like you have to apply this. And this is where growth and having guys that you can get out of the portal that can immediately play for you and stay healthy plays a part in it sometimes. Or those young guys that have to wait their turn, continuously working to improve to show their self-worth. Hard work does play a big part in this. And also the concentration of what it takes to win. I'm not denying that Heupel has the ability to do those things, but you guys know how you were at 18, 19, and 20. I'm good already. It's usually what you think until you realize, like, oh, this is what Jalen meant. This is how he went about working. And I'm hoping we see that before we actually get deeper into the season. And we're already kind of halfway through it. We are halfway through it.
Well, and to that point, let's talk about Alabama. Obviously, I mean, it wasn't just the best week of last season. That was the best week of Tennessee football, and Lord knows how long. Really special week. And you have an opportunity to do that again because, I mean, you go and you win in Tuscaloosa, and it's just going to be absolutely unreal. Alabama looks shaky. They obviously uber talented, but not. I would say one of the on the low end of the teams that Saban has had. How are you feeling about this game?
This is. I'll tell you guys this in a joking way. Thank God for NIL, right? That's
doubt.
That's kind of taken away from walking into recruits' cribs and saying, "Hey, look at these rings. You want one of these?" It's created more of a balanced game when it comes down to what Alabama's capable of doing, and Georgia and the LSU's and everybody else. Like Georgia still is up there, but even all of us look at Georgia and say, maybe opportunity there, right?
Especially
Alabama,
with Brock Bowers out.
Especially. So I look at Bama and I kind of say this a little bit. They got questions at quarterback too, although his legs are dynamic as heck. Their defense is solid, but so is Tennessee's. Their offensive line, I think they lose that battle if we're comparing one to the other. I think Tennessee's offensive line is better than Alabama's offensive line. They got a young guy over on the left side that's getting cooked. And all I'm hoping is we see James Pierce do the exact same cooking that he's been doing. The opportunities that we can beat them 2 years in a row, if you don't have, the ice running through your veins to say, man, screw this crowd down here in Tuscaloosa. We're down here to win, and we're down, and we can win. There's not been many times other than the Mount Cody block kick that you go into Alabama and say, we got them. If Joe manages this game well, his offensive line, as we spoke about earlier, controlled the line of scrimmage, and that three-headed monster at running back controls the tempo and minimizes the amount of snaps that Alabama gets offensively, you can walk out of there with your head high with a dub. I'm not talking about a moral victory. Alabama's poised for another win. The same way Texas had a run game and a defense to beat Alabama, that's the recipe right there. Just don't get cute, no turnovers, and control the line of scrimmage. And I would even say again, we saw Max Johnson get a rogue touchdown on the ground. That's what's so fascinating about that game is you take away 7 if you have the ability to box them in. That is the one portion of this group getting so many sacks from Tyler. I mean, from everybody across the front, right? That you hope this game, don't make it about trying to sack Jalen Milroe. Make it about boxing him in. If he only get a 2-yard gain, you live in that world because I trust Joe Milton throwing the ball just a little bit more than I trust Jalen Milroe. If it comes down to controlling the ground game and putting the ball in the quarterback arm.
Obviously the other huge thing in this is going to be the penalties, and we saw some of those pop up at home which was kind of disappointing and surprising. You played in huge road games, obviously, in these insane SEC environments. Like, how can you prepare for that? How can you eliminate those mistakes? What's it like being on the field in those situations? Is it a anxiety thing, or is it just a noise thing, or is it kind of both?
A little bit of both. And in sports, you got to have a little bit of anxiety that goes into it too, because that helps performance. Because if I'm on edge about failing, then I feel good about my performance when I do a good thing. It comes down to just being super transparent this week, not overthinking what the noise is too, because some people, I thought I heard something. Hey, coaches can bring speakers right up to the offensive line and try to blast out, as much sound as they possibly can. That's not really productive. This is a look to the man to your left and to your right and say, hey, man, just do your job this week. We're on the road. And that's the other component of this game, too. The last time Tennessee was on the road, that was a bad Florida loss. Control that aspect of them having good plays at home and watching the crowd get behind them, because Alabama's good enough to make plays, but it's a matter of you minimizing and moving on to the next play. This isn't the impossible task like it was years before. You don't have Nick Saban talking all offseason, or their players talking about this is the revenge tour that they're looking forward to, and their quarterback saying we're going to have a party if they don't feel some type of threat. What is the old saying? What is it? No punching down? Bama's never punched down to Tennessee. If you're a wolf, why are you worried about sheep when you know you can take them out anyway? And for them to be talking and chatty, there's some uncertainty to it. And then Tennessee's just got to do their part of it and control that line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it really is unreal. Like the feeling around this week is so weird. I've kept having to kind of remind myself that it's Alabama week, because it's gotten to the point now after last season where I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a winnable game. And like, I mean, I honestly, you look at these two teams on paper, and if you took the names off the top of the page, I don't know that you'd be able to tell the difference. So you'd be like, oh yeah, that's Alabama for sure. And that is so crazy.
And not just that though, too. If I feel like we're in a better position to control our emotions as a team, than Alabama does. Y'all, we had a party last year. I was running around kneeling to go meet my family so I can strike up my cigar. Didn't go on the field. People broke down the goalposts, and Donnie Plowman gladly paid it, right? This week should be a lot of emotions for Alabama. They should want some get back, and I hope it oozes over into the game to where they're getting penalties for being stupid, or they're trying so hard to get a payback that they're forgetting to actually play the game. A few of those dudes wasn't on that team that got beat by Tennessee last year, but they're holding on to it. Guys, think about that. If you're focusing about what happened last year and, oh boy, I can't wait to win so we can party, you're probably going to lose because you're forgetting about the task at hand here. There's a lot of hate that goes into it. And I'll say this, the crowd should show it. It's probably going to be toxic. They're going to try to be as rabid as they possibly can. But again, if we hold our poise a little bit better than they do, strong chance that this Vols team can win in Tuscaloosa.
Switching gears just a little bit, Eric Berry going into the College Football Hall of Fame, honored last week. What was it like? I mean, you played with him for a couple of years. Yeah. What was it like playing with him? Did you know? I don't remember when y'all both came in. I don't know if you were there before him.
I was there before him. Yeah.
Is there a lot of? I can't remember. Was there a lot of hype coming in? Did y'all know this dude was going to be what he was, or how did that kind of like play out?
He was one of the first times I actually saw what a 5-star looks like. Meaning you hear, it was certain guys that came before him was like, man, this dude's legit, or he's a highly rated guy. Mayo was highly rated, but he had to like work for it. Rob had to work for it, got it his senior year. EB got it instantly, right? That was one of the few times you said, this is what a doggone 5-star looks like. From the practice field to his ability. And then you see certain stuff in practice, be like, he cool. And then he puts on that uniform. And then you realize, oh, crap. He's the real deal. And he kept making plays and kept working hard. And he's by far one of the most humble guys that I've seen come through UT. And we actually had I have a group chat with my recruiting class, 2004. And one of the guys in the group, put EB's track, his accolades and achievements up. And he was just like, we were celebrating him in the group chat. And he was just like, man, can you imagine playing with a guy that's in the college football Hall of Fame and be this great and never mentioned it one time to us? Like, that's how good of a player he was, and also a teammate. One of them was like, if that was me, y'all would have never saw me at practice. I'm thinking to myself, that's why it's not you. And mind you, in that group is Robert Ayers, Ramon Foster, Anthony Parker, Inky's in that group, like all Mayo's in that group. All of us are just acknowledging the fact that this dude was, far and above the expectation, went far and above the expectation of what a 5-star was. And that's why when you also look at what recruiting means to a team, those stars, the ones that actually are those highly rated guys, you need them dudes on your team because you get college football Hall of Famers out of them, and you put them on the field at Neyland and up in the rafters and inside of that stadium. Phenomenal dude, man.
That's awesome to hear about how humble. I mean, you can tell it right when he got there, but that is cool to hear, firsthand.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to just a couple more because I know both of y'all are time crunched. But I got nothing going on. But to that point, and I'm really interested to know how you think about this. So Eric, I mean, he kind of got taken out in his prime because with cancer and everything that happened.
The Achilles when he was coming back.
Yeah, the Achilles coming back, and it just seemed like he didn't have the full time that he should have had. And I've heard a lot of people say that it affected him pretty deeply. As a longtime NFL player, one that's retired, and what do you think that must have been like for him? I'm interested to know how you might see that.
People ask me all the time, man, you want to go back and play? And I tell them, man, no, absolutely. I got my feel. And that's because hitting double-digit years is always huge for guys. I played in a Super Bowl, didn't win one. The contracts is there. All those things are there. And then, of course, you start to feel the age like, man, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this at 30 plus, at 32, 34 years old, because the position that EB plays is essentially the same as I always correlate defensive backs to offensive linemen. You never off the field. You always got to hit somebody in physical. And if you ever get exposed, everybody notices it. Correct?
Oh, yeah.
EB's situation was something he couldn't control in life because cancer can hit anybody, right? And, of course, when you have the opportunity to come back and you have an Achilles, and then, of course, you're not quite 30 years old and you have it in you, but life hits you, injuries hit you. And those are the guys that always feel like I got a little bit more and I just can't show it. So, yeah, it does affect you. You got to think most guys start playing football at no later than 6th, 7th grade. How old are you then? 11 years old? So from 11 to friggin' 28 years old. Think about how long and how your days are laid out. Your summers are planned. What you know is your life is what you are as a football player. And then it abruptly ends and not to your own undoing. It'll make some guys bitter. And I'm sure watching Kansas City be who they are right now plays a part in it because nobody ever wants to leave a team, right? And then it get better after you go. Selfishly, a lot of people are like, man, I hope the guy behind me sucks a little bit so they love me. But they didn't, and they had a couple years of lull, but then they go get the Honey Badger. They won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I get why guys feel that way. Me, I'm like, I'm good, man. I satisfied myself. But for the dudes that don't hit them double digits or injury strike you, it can be a bit of a bother.
So what's it like for you right now when you're watching the Steelers play? How emotional do you get watching some of those games?
I'm good on watching them because I feel like professionally, heck, hey, man, you'll win or you don't. And if your performance sucks, then you get fired. You can do that in the NFL. I only get super emotional when the Vols play. Okay? I only get super emotional when the Vols play. I don't know what it is about college ball. The Steelers, though, I'm just like, yeah, beat the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, I was big on that one. Beat the Cleveland Browns. Oh, I'm huge on that. Or Cincinnati, that's because it's such a divisional game that you always want to beat those teams, But all in all, a win is a win and loss to me when it comes down to the Steelers. But my Vols, different conversation.
Yeah, believe me, I can sympathize with being extremely emotional when it comes to Tennessee sports. Ramon Foster, this is so great. It has been every single time you've come on. We can't appreciate it enough. Go ahead, anything you got going on. plug everything if you got it.
Man, no doubt, man. Ramon Caleb Will from 6 to 10 on 104.5 The Zone. I'm doing Titans Sideline Radio with Titans Radio right now on Sunday. So if you guys ever you're out of the house and want to catch us, we're on the radio 104.5 The Zone, and also have my Ramon Foster podcast on YouTube that I stream every day.
Go check all of that out. Tell me this now you're on Titans Radio. When Kessling retires, will Mike Keith do it? Will Mike Keith be the voice of the Vols? Please, I want so. And can you? And if not, can you please lobby for him to do that?
I've never had that conversation with him. If there is a moment of quiet time, I may just ask him just to pique his interest. Like, Mike Keith, what you think, man? Just to see what he says. I hadn't asked him though. I try to keep it a professional with Mike Keith.
Man, he's the absolute best. Well, anyway,
he's so good. He is.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're awesome. Thanks so much again for coming on, Ramon Foster. We appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, fellas.